HOA Karen called my grandpa. A Leech didn't know my uncle's a state senator. The community meeting was supposed to be a sleepy affair. Just another Tuesday night where folks grumbled about mailbox colors and overgrown hedges. But when Karen stormed in, her heels clacking like gunfire on the linoleum, every head in the room snapped up. She didn't just walk, she marched. Her lips curled into a smirk that screamed she'd already won. I was there, slouched in the back row, half listening while scrolling through my phone. My grandpa, Walt, sat beside me, his weathered hands folded calmly in his lap. At 78, he was the kind of man who'd rather plant tulips than pick fights. But his quiet nature made him a target in our little HOA-ruled neighborhood. Karen, the self-appointed queen of the Pinewood Estates Homeowners Association, had been gunning for him ever since he moved in with me after Grandma passed. His old pickup truck, lovingly maintained but undeniably rusty, was her favorite thing to complain about. It's an eyesore, she'd screech at every meeting, as if Walt's truck was personally offending her manicured lawn. Tonight, though, she'd escalated. Karen stood at the front, waving a stack of papers like a prosecutor in a courtroom drama. "Walter Thompson is a leech," she declared, her voice slicing through the murmurs. "He's living off his grandson's dime, contributing nothing but that junk heap in the driveway. And now I have proof he's been dodging HOA fees." The room gasped. My stomach dropped. Walt's face didn't change, but I saw his hands tighten, knuckles whitening. I shot up, my chair scraping loudly. "What the hell are you talking about?" Karen, I demanded. "Grandpa pays his share. You've got no proof." "Oh, I have proof," she said, her eyes glinting with malice. She held up a letter, supposedly from the HOA treasurer, claiming Walt hadn't paid dues in 6 months. The crowd murmured, some nodding along, others looking skeptical. Karen's cronies, her usual posse of pearl-clutching busybodies, smirked from the front row. I felt my blood boil. Grandpa wasn't rich, but he was meticulous about his bills. This was a lie, and I knew it. "Sit down, kid," Karen snapped, dismissing me like I was a teenager instead of a 29-year-old electrician who'd been keeping this house running since Dad left. "This isn't about you. It's about freeloaders dragging our property values down." She turned to the crowd, her voice dripping with fake concern. "We can't let people like Walt ruin Pinewood Estates for the rest of us." The accusations kept coming. Karen claimed Walt's truck violated some obscure HOA rule about unsightly vehicles, and she'd rallied enough signatures to fine him $500 unless he got rid of it. She even hinted at having connections at the county office to make his life harder. The room was splitting. Half the neighbors looked ready to tar and feather Grandpa, while others, like old Mrs. Delaney, shot me sympathetic glances. I was about to lose it when Walt put a hand on my arm. "Let her talk." "Ben," he whispered, "truth always comes out." I wasn't so sure. Karen had a knack for bending the truth to fit her narrative. She'd once gotten the Hendersons' dog declared a public nuisance because it barked at her cat. Now she was after Grandpa, and I didn't know why. Maybe it was because he didn't bow to her like the rest of the neighborhood. Maybe she just liked the power trip. Either way, I wasn't letting her smear him. The tension simmered as the meeting dragged on. Karen's lies grew bolder. She claimed Walt was behind on property taxes too, and had credible reports of him dumping trash in the community park. Each accusation was a jab, and I could feel the room turning against us. My friend Jamal, who ran the local hardware store, leaned over and muttered, "She's got no shame. Man, you gotta fight back." I was about to, but then came the twist I didn't see coming. The door swung open, and in walked a man I hadn't seen in years, my Uncle Ray. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a suit that probably cost more than my car. He looked wildly out of place in our dingy community center. Heads turned, whispers spread. Karen's smirk faltered for a split second. "Evening, folks," Ray said, his voice calm but carrying the weight of someone used to being heard. "Sorry I'm late. I heard there was a problem with my father's reputation." The room went dead silent. Karen's eyes widened. "Who are you?" she demanded, but her voice wasn't as steady now. "Raymond Thompson," he said, stepping forward. "State senator. Walt's son. He held up a folder of his own, and I swear I saw Karen's face pale. And I've got some questions about this letter you're waving around. I hadn't told anyone Ray was coming. Hell, I didn't even know he was in town. Last I'd heard, he was in the state capitol, knee-deep in budget hearings. But there he was, striding to the front like he owned the place. I glanced at Grandpa, who just gave a small, knowing smile. That old fox he'd called Ray, hadn't he? Karen recovered quickly, doubling down. This doesn't concern you. Senator, she spat, emphasizing the title like it was a joke. This is an HOA matter. Your father's been dodging his responsibilities, and I have the documentation to prove it. Ray didn't flinch. He opened his folder and pulled out a stack of papers, holding them up for the crowd to see. Funny thing about documentation, he said. I had my office pull the HOA records. Not only has my father paid every dime of his dues on time, but it seems someone's been skimming funds from the HOA account. Care to guess who? The crowd erupted in gasps and whispers. Karen's cronies shifted uncomfortably. I felt a surge of vindication, but I held my breath, waiting for the hammer to fall. These letters you're waving around, Ray continued, his voice sharp now. Forgeries. The treasurer never signed them. In fact, she's right here to confirm it. He gestured to the back, where Mrs. Delaney stood up, her frail frame trembling with anger. I never wrote that letter, Mrs. Delaney said, her voice quaking but firm. Karen told me to stay quiet, said she'd handle everything. She's been bullying me for months. The room was chaos now. Neighbors shouted, some at Karen, others at each other. Karen's face twisted into a snarl. This is outrageous, she screamed. You're all conspiring against me. I've done nothing but protect this neighborhood. Protect it, Ray shot back. You've been extorting people. Karen, you forged documents, slandered my father, and let's not forget, tried to bribe a county clerk to falsify tax records. I've got the clerk's statement right here. He held up another paper, and the crowd's murmurs turned into a roar. Karen's schemes unraveled faster than a cheap sweater. Ray laid it all bare. She'd been pocketing HOA funds, using them to pay for her fancy vacations, while blaming delinquents like Grandpa for the shortfall. The forged letter was just the tip of the iceberg. She'd been manipulating records to target anyone who dared question her reign. The truck complaint, a distraction to rally her allies. The tax lie, a desperate attempt to force Grandpa out. I watched Karen's empire crumble, her smugness replaced by panic. She tried to bolt for the door, but Jamal and a few others blocked her path. You're not going anywhere, Jamal said, his voice low and firm. The fallout was brutal. Ray didn't just stop at exposing her lies. He'd already contacted the state attorney's office, and they were looking into fraud charges. The HOA board, half of whom were Karen's puppets, was disbanded on the spot. Neighbors who'd once cowered under her thumb now stood tall, their voices loud with outrage. Mrs. Delaney, tears in her eyes, apologized to Grandpa for not speaking up sooner. He just patted her hand and said, no harm done. Ellen, you did right in the end. Karen, meanwhile, was a wreck. Her husband, who'd been silent through the whole ordeal, finally spoke up, his voice shaking. I didn't know, he said. She told me it was all legal. Nobody believed him, but it didn't matter. Karen's reputation was toast. By the next morning, her face was all over local ex-posts, with neighbors sharing stories of her bullying and lies. One post called her Pinewood's public enemy #1, and it got thousands of likes. As for Grandpa, he took it all in stride. The next day, he was back in his garden, planting marigolds like nothing had happened. I asked him why he didn't fight back sooner. Didn't need to, he said, wiping dirt off his hands. Folks like Karen always dig their own graves. Ray stuck around for a few days, helping to sort out the HOA mess. He even got the county to waive the fine on Grandpa's truck, calling it a matter of principle. The neighborhood felt different after that lighter, like a storm had passed. People started talking to each other again, not just about rules and fines, but about life. Mrs. Delaney brought over a pie. Jamal offered to fix Grandpa's truck for free. But the real justice, Karen's house went up for sale a month later. Nobody knows if she moved out of shame or because the legal fees were piling up, but Pinewood Estates was done with her. The last I heard, she was living in a condo across town, banned from every HOA in the county. Looking back, I can't help but wonder how it got this far. Karen's lies hurt a lot of people, not just Grandpa. So, what do you think? Was she just a power-hungry bully? Or did she really believe she was protecting the neighborhood? Share your thoughts. I'm curious to hear what you make of this mess.